Do you share the desire to have a child who is confident in all they do and goes into their adulthood, maintain their creativity and chasing their dreams? I think that that's a shared piece that teachers have, that parents have, grandparents have for their grandkids. I think that's a desired or a thing that we all have in common. And sometimes there's lots of different approaches out there, and there's also lots of things that set it back, and there's lots of things that excel it. I think in today's world that we kind of sometimes we start to have things thrown against us. We have these walls that come up that in the learning process, and a lot of that comes from a streamlined learning process that simply teaches children to pass a test. And it's good. We need math, we need science, we need arithmetic, right? History. All these things need to happen. But the downside is along the way, somewhere we got lost and we said, we just need you to pass the test. That's all we need you to do. And the learning started to kind of drop. And then we started seeing creativity kind of get killed too, because you weren't allowed to think and figure out how to solve the problem in another way. You needed to solve a problem and show it the way that you were told so you could pass the test correctly, the way that they wanted to. And that's when we started to run into a wall of loss of creativity, a loss of confidence in I can do things myself. And this kind of hurts. This hurts as they develop because at a young age, right? We watch children and they're risk takers and they're trying things, right? Oh my gosh. How many times did how many times did you fall off of a bike, right? How many times when we were learning to crawl, how many times when we were learning to walk, did we stumble, face plant, hurt ourselves, right? But along the way, there wasn't one right way for that child to learn to walk. There wasn't one right way for the child to learn to do. They worked through, we helped teach them and guide them where we could, and otherwise they tried and they tried and they tried until they found something that was successful. Now, another thing that I sit here and talk that I think about is that what built this child's confidence at that young age? It was finding that they were capable of doing something. Sometimes it was just capable of rolling over, right, at the youngest age. Then it was capable of crawling. Then it was capable of walking. They were constantly exploring the world, learning to interact with it. They were learning how things applied, right? If I do A, B happens. They were putting things together. Learning was happening in a fun and a functional way for them. And this is where their confidence grew. This is where, at a young age, they naturally are creative. They're naturally confident in their capabilities. But somewhere, right, as we traveled on, as they grow and they age, that started to go away. Because this is actually what Taylor Trainers is all about. Is helping find additional ways for youth to learn and grow in confidence and creativity, so they take that and grow. But what we recognize is that confidence and creativity come from being confident and becoming capable. And capable of me is learning that I can do a lot of different things as long as I try, as long as I'm given the opportunity, and as long as I put forth the effort. Now, it doesn't mean that we're always going to be great at things, but it also means that as I learn to become capable and confident, that also means that I become confident in failing. I remember watching somebody one day. He's an inspirational speaker and businessman, and I remember watching him talk to somebody, and they said, they were talking to him about how he became so good at something, how he became so confident in it, and he said, watch this," and he stops on stage and unties his shoe, and then he looks the presenter in the eye, starts tying his shoe. The presenter is very confused at the moment, wondering what in the world is this guy doing? He's sitting on my stage tying his shoe. And what he said at that moment is that he goes, at one point, tying my shoe was difficult. I failed, I tried, and eventually I was able to tie my shoe. And then eventually, just like I just did, I was able to make eye contact with you. I was able to tie my shoe without even looking, because my confidence grew as I became more capable. Now we see how confidence is directly impacted by our capability to do things. And as we become more capable, we actually become more confident in trying new things and doing more things because we go, I can do that. Now, this really doesn't have to tie into anything specific. When I think about capabilities and becoming and trying new things to improve my confidence and to improve my creativity, the options are endless. You know, one of the things for us at Tailored Trainers that we like to think about and we focus on is how real world things apply to some of those core things that you learn. You know, I think about science with meteorology or how the dog's brain works when you're training them. Or we look at engineering and how the bicycle and the spokes and the chain and everything all work. We think about entrepreneurship and how I can recognize and be creative with ideas and things that people need, even at the age of 8 years old, and turning it into something fun that builds, creates revenue, and then gets you excited every day. Capability, confidence and capability go hand in hand. Now, I've had a lot of people also say, well, what about praise? Like, yeah, I can praise my child all day long. And praise is great, but praise marks like a specific moment that your child did something great. And that's awesome. That is a piece of the puzzle. But the biggest piece is coming back and becoming confident in your capabilities. So my invitation is looking for opportunities to provide real world experiences to your children. Right? And we can turn that in and help them apply to the normal core things that they learn. I know my mother and my stepfather are actually working on a program called the 442nd Project, and it's a history project on a reserve unit in the Air Force. That would be a cool example. What if there was a museum that you could go and attend? And helping a child go through that museum and create their own quiz that they might give a friend. They became confident and capable, learning that I can create learning material. What about getting out on that bicycle and learning how the gear systems actually work on there, and how the changing and the size of that chain and where it's going, how that makes the pedaling easier and harder, and then going on a ride and trying it out. How about we talk about how that, like I said earlier, about getting into dog training with your dog that you have at home, and then starting to learn about how the dopamine in the dog's brain starts to impact how quickly they learn. We're trying new things that are real world things, but we're applying information and knowledge that is fun and functional to go along with it. This is where confidence grows. Confidence grows in capability, that I can try new things and I can understand them because I applied it in things that make sense to me and in ways that make sense to me, in a learning style that was fun for me. Not just sitting behind a desk and learning to process the problem the way that they want me to. This is the direction that we're building at Tailored Trainers. It is not anything that is there that is meant to replace math, science, or history, and all of our other subjects, our core subjects. They are needed. But our goal is to help children grow in confidence and creativity through capability, through trying new things out, seeing how they tie into all these other core principles that we're learning and how it ties into the real world. And hopefully, at the end of the day, we have youth that grow into adults that are dreamers, youth that aren't afraid to chase after the things that they desire, and they have a clear understanding of things that really got them excited. What I would love to see are youth are chasing after a career, chasing after passions, after hobbies that they love early on in their years in life, long before I did, as I got into my 30s and 40s. So remember, praise is a great way to help reinforce a moment and slowly build confidence. But the confidence and creativity really grow when we allow our kids to be capable and give them the opportunities to try new things frequently. That's what I have for you from Tailored Trainers today. Make sure you stay tuned for more, and maybe drop down in the comments things that you would like, more conversation pieces that you would like like to hear about with growing confidence and helping raise capable children. We'll see you on the other end.